Well, we're into November now, and we won't see half as many games as we did in October. But if we get half as much fun, it'll be a month to remember. Steps up right-footed and sends the keeper the wrong way. Calm as you like from Sam Cosgrove. 8 minutes in, and Argyle lead.
Azaz long, he's found Hardy. What a ball that was. Hardy on the edge. Gets the shot away. Left foot across the goalkeeper. Landed into the Grant into Ennis. Spins. Gets to the byline. Stands the ball up. Cosgrove. Goal! Whitaker in space on the right if he can find him. He chooses left. Edwards gets across. Cuts in the gross.
Yeah!
Goal for Argyle! Lombard tries to make it run in behind them, does so. Can he tee it up for Cosgrove? It's gone wide. Long ball from Randall and he's picked out Hardy. Is this the one that seals it? It is! Well, it's been coming through most of the second half. It comes in lovely style.
To Randall, he looks up, low ball, nice pass. Azaz spins and turns, and now Whitaker has a bit of space on the right-hand side. Ennis up with him. Whitaker still going inside the penalty area, slipped through the goalkeeper and in. That's crossed the line. It's a huge error from Cumming, and Argyle have the lead. Left-footed pass again, splits the midfield and finds Azaz, who's got space to run at the MK Dons defence. Gets towards the edge of the penalty area. Mumba's free on the right-hand side. Into Ennis! Oh, it's a great goal! It's a great finish. It's a great move, and Argyle have doubled their advantage. Great challenge in the middle from Randall. It breaks to Azaz. Is this going to be 3? Yes, it is! Goodness me! It was so easy for Argyle. To play a low ball into Barry, who's been caught on it, and Azaz will run forward towards the edge of the penalty area. Can he make it 4? He can! Oh, just like that, Argyle restore their 3-goal advantage.
Sets Plymouth Argyle on the attack. Aziz has slotted home after a great pass. It's Niall Ennis with the goal. Aziz in the assist. And first score a minute into stoppage time.
Gordon doing the defending. Number tries to take him on the outside. Couple of step overs. Tricky feet from the Argyle wing back. He's got Azaz for company. Here he is, just outside the box of 4 Argyle players in the middle of Azaz. Can find them. Oh, he scored! And what a goal from Finn Azaz that is! An absolute belter! Curls it left-footed into the top corner, and Argyle lead. Finds Ennis, now Azaz. This is nice from Argyle, one-touch stuff. Ennis is free on the right-hand side. Can he pick someone out in the middle? Low ball, dealt with by Gordon. Randall then picks it up, hits it, goal, it's 2! And it's another beauty! What a strike from Adam Randall! Top corner, Argyle lead 2-0.
Cosgrove lays it off to Randall. That's really good work from the central midfielder. That's played in towards Ennis, who equalises for Plymouth. Cosgrove has made a big impact in the second half. Wants to check back. It's Galloway, the substitute. Galloway's ball is a good one! And it's finished by Morgan Whitaker. And that's the comeback complete for Plymouth Argyle.
Strong play from Mumba. That looked like a lost cause. He's somehow managed to wrestle possession back off Key. Keeps it as well. Randall delivers into the middle. Whitaker is there! Yes! It's an instant reply for Argyle! Morgan Whitaker! City with everybody back. It's towards Blackman, who I think he got something on it. City do manage to clear it away. Mumba urged to shoot, hits it well!
Oh my goodness me! What a finish!
What a goal!
Wow!
Snapping challenge from Joe Edwards. Houghton then rides one challenge. He's got a man free on the right-hand side. Whitaker is that man. Low ball into Hardy! Yes!
That's why they made the substitution, Charlie. What a goal!
Whitaker, ball bounces for him, looks to slide it through. Hardy's in! 1-on-1! Puts it and scores! And that could be it! Come
Just personified from Ryan Harding!
What a cool finish. Wow.
Yeah, some incredible memories, some incredible goals, weren't there, during October? Led, of course, to Stephen Schumacher getting the Manager of the Month award for the second month running. And if we have anything like that in the 2 league games we get this month, then happy days. We'll be in a great place. Hello, welcome to Argyle TV. Good afternoon. We're building up to the Greens' second trip in a week to Lincolnshire, this time in the league to take on Lincoln City. And of course, we'll all be hoping for a different result, that is for sure, from last Saturday. 17 games in to the season, Argyle 4 points ahead of Ipswich Town at the top of the table. And this is the time of year, isn't it, really? The winter months, when results really start to matter that little bit more. Games become a little bit more crucial. Starts become more than just starts, don't they? And form is really tested. And we will be hoping that Argyle can get through that with a slightly depleted squad. Now, over the next 45 minutes or so, we'll be building up to this afternoon's game. We'll be bringing you all the team news. We'll have a look inside both camps and, of course, be hearing from Stephen Schumacher on his second successive Manager of the Month award. We also want you to get in touch with us, if you can, this afternoon. Throughout the next half an hour or so, we'll be reading as many comments as possible. Get in touch via social media at Argyle on Twitter or on Facebook, or you can drop us a message on the YouTube channel you're watching this, just in the comments section below. We always want to hear from you, that is for sure. Well, delighted to say that joining us for this afternoon's broadcast is Katie Middleton, the former Argyle women's captain, as always. And Katie, October gets a little bit colder, the clocks have gone back, it's a little bit darker, football becomes a little bit more crucial.
Yeah, I think, it's that time of the season, isn't it, where, like you said earlier, the good start to the season, we kind of put that behind us. And, it comes down to the nitty-gritty of still trying to win games and racking up as many points as you can. And obviously for Argyle, trying to stay at the top of the league.
As well as that, this game today takes on that little bit extra importance, I suppose. And we'll be hearing from both Morgan Whitaker and Stephen Schumacher in just a moment. But after last weekend's performance in the FA Cup against Grimsby, we'll be hoping that this trip up to Lincolnshire is slightly better than that one.
Yeah, I think, we heard from inside the camp after last weekend's result, and it was made very clear that it wasn't a performance with standards that they've come to expect. And I think that the players have set for themselves. I think it's one of those results that probably no one would have been expecting if you'd looked at form going into the game. But maybe for Argyle, it's a possibly a blessing in disguise. And, at some point they were going to slip up. These results are going to happen throughout the season. And maybe the fact that it's in the FA Cup is, you want to go on a cup run, but probably the league is the most important thing for Argyle currently. So, yeah, maybe they'll look at it as a little bit of a blessing in disguise.
We'll get into that in more detail a little bit later on. Let's start off by hearing from the manager, Stephen Schumacher, who, like Katie and myself and a lot of other supporters, of course, of Argyle, is hoping that this trip to Lincolnshire goes slightly better than last weekend.
Yeah, hopefully this visit to Lincolnshire is better than the one last weekend. We knew we weren't at it last week. We didn't play very well. Grimsby were the better team and deservedly went through in the cup tie. So, yeah, we spoke about it on Monday, analysed it and debriefed it and moved on. And the focus all week has been getting back to basics, doing what we're good at, doing that better. And then, yeah, hopefully try and put in a better performance against Lincoln City, which is going to be another tough game. But it's one, if we're right, that we feel as though we can get something from.
It's easy, isn't it, for people, I think, to look at a result like the Grimsby one and go, right, wheels are off, it's going to be a disaster. But if you just have to look at what we've been doing in the opening couple of months of the season, and it looks like it is an outlier of a result.
Yeah, I don't think, well, we're definitely not thinking the wheels have fell off. So every now and again in football, it's got a funny way of kicking you in the stomach when you think you're doing brilliantly, and it brings you back down to reality, if you like. So yeah, we've been flying high. We were unbeaten in 15, 16 games, whatever it was. And we've put in a performance that was way below the standard required and got what we deserved. So yeah, it's but it's definitely no need to overreact. It's, you know, we're doing brilliant in the league. We're 4 points clear at the top of League One, so nothing to be too doom and gloom about.
On Lincoln themselves, they've got an intriguing home record. They're unbeaten, but they've only won one game. They draw quite a lot. What are you expecting from them?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mad stat, isn't it? When you read after how many games they play, the home 8 or whatever it is, that they're unbeaten, but they've only won one. So it shows that it's hard. It's a difficult place to go and win. Obviously, they've played a lot of the big teams as well. They played Sheffield Wednesday, Barnsley, got good results. Ipswich, they won away at Ipswich, so they're obviously not an easy team to play against. They've got some sort of spirit, good fight within them, and yeah, we know we're going to be in for a tough afternoon. What we've seen of them going forward as well, they've got, again, speed, good work rate up the top end of the pitch, and they're always a threat on the counter-attack, so that's something that we need to be aware of and defend properly, so we don't cause ourselves too many problems. Yeah,
they also had a cup loss in the FA Cup last weekend, but then backed that up by knocking Bristol City out in the League Cup in the week. Yeah,
it's funny old game, football, isn't it? It's, say just when you think everything's doom and gloom, they would have thought that last week of Chippenham losing to go and beat Bristol City away. It's just a great reaction and credit to them, but that's sort of what we're going to need on Saturday, a better performance, a better reaction from the players, and put in something that looks a bit like our team.
Don't normally ask you about sort of team news and injury news, but we saw two players go off in the first half on Saturday, Conor Grant and Dan Scarr. I don't know whether you want to just give an update really on where they are and what it might be for them.
Yeah, so they're both not going to be available. Conor Grant is going to be a little more long term than Dan Scarr. Unfortunately, he's got quite a significant tear in his thigh after attempting a shot early on in the game against Grimsby and had to go off. So that's a bit of a blow. He could be anything between 3 and 4 months, which is similar to Mikel Miller type of timescale. And Dan Scarr isn't as serious, but still probably going to be missing for, 4 to 6 weeks. So yeah, bit of a blow for us. Thankfully, we've got Macaulay Gillespie back in the squad. He's going to be involved at the weekend. He's trained okay. He's getting through his problem, so he's going to be there and thereabouts. And yeah, we'll have to make do with what we've got. Keep fighting, keep trying to get through these games as best as we can with what is a limited squad at the moment. But yeah, stay positive and hopefully try and put in a good performance and go and get a result on Saturday.
Yeah, those injuries obviously a real concern for Steven Schumacher, who's been forced obviously into making a couple of changes for this afternoon's game. Let's have a look at the side now then, shall we? 5 changes in total from the side that lost to Grimsby last weekend. Of course, Dan Scarr and Conor Grant missing out altogether. James Wilson and Barley Mumba coming in, so not bad replacements. The other changes see Niall Ennis, Morgan Whitaker and Jordan Houghton return to the starting lineup. Will Jenkins-Davies, Sam Cosgrove and Matt Butcher all drop to the bench. Katie, the injuries to Conor Grant and to Dan Scarr, big concerns. It adds to an already pretty long list if you look at it, with Finn Azaz out, James Bolton out, Mikel Miller out, Danny Mayer out, Macaulay Gillespie on his way back. You're always going to get injuries, but it is frustrating when they all come pretty much in the same sort of 3-4 week window.
Yeah, it's difficult. And I think we've spoken quite a lot throughout the season already about how Argyle this year have built a better squad. And I think now's the time when that really starts to become tested. And, you know, nobody wants injuries. If you could have a fully fit squad all of the time, then brilliant. But, you know, in reality, that doesn't happen. And I'm sure that the players that are out there today are more than good enough to hopefully put the wrongs of last weekend right and go out there and get a result today.
And looking at this team in particular, you'd probably argue on paper it's maybe one player away from being full strength. So as an 11, one potentially two. As an 11, it's incredibly strong. I mean, it should be good enough, seeing what we've seen so far this season.
Yeah, 100%. And like we've said, you know, every player that's gone out there and pulled on that shirt so far this season has done a great job. And these 11 players that are starting today will want to prove why they're in that starting lineup. And I think you look at the back three of Wilson, Longvike and Galloway. They've played together this season. It's not a new combination of players. Probably see Longvike play in the middle again, and that's kind of what happened when Dan Scarr was suspended for the 3 games that he missed. So it's definitely not a completely new setup. And these players will have trained together, they'll have worked together. Shu will have had them doing things on the training pitch, and they'll know exactly what they need to do. So just a case of going out and executing a game plan today.
Also quite nice to see the youngsters on the bench as well. Will Jenkins-Davis, of course, been involved for the last couple of weeks, but Oscar Hawes and Freddie Asaka on the bench too. We'll have a look at the Lincoln side in just a moment. Just a couple of comments that have been coming in about the side. You can get in touch, remember, at Argyle on Twitter and on Facebook, or you can drop us a comment in the comment section below this video. Nicholas Cole wants a shout out, so I'll do that for you now. Hello. Thanks for listening. Steve Watson said he was quite concerned when he saw the lineup. Interesting, because it is, as we've been saying, a strong looking side. Maybe the replacements, the changes from the bench could be the area of concern for you there, Steve. But keep them coming in, please. Let's have a look at Lincoln then. They're a side that have a pretty interesting record, it has to be said. They got a great win in the week against Bristol City to progress to the 4th round of the Carabao Cup, but they did go out of the FA Cup to Chippenham Town on the weekend. And Mark Kennedy, their manager, has made a couple of changes from the side that won at Ashton Gate, and they're in sort of wing back. Oh, he's made 3 changes. Sorry, wing back positions predominantly, with Robson and Walsh coming in for Ayoma and Rowan. And then Jack Diamond, the striker on loan from Sunderland, back in as well, their top scorer, having missed the last couple of games. I mentioned they're an interesting side, Katie. They're unbeaten at home in the league this season. They've played 7 games. They've drawn 6 of them, with just the 1 win coming against Derby County. I mean, is that a good record to have? They obviously are difficult to beat there, but they'd have wanted to pick up more points. That is for sure.
Yeah, I think, like you said, it's a bit of an odd one, isn't it? It's to be unbeaten but having only won 1 game out of 7 games that you've played at home, 6 or 7 games. So I think the way they set up, the way they play, they're quite a counter-attacking side, and they'll look to kind of sit in against some of the bigger sides, particularly in this league, and it works for them. They've had decent results. They drew, I think it was 0-0 with Sheffield Wednesday. They went away to Ipswich and beat them. But you look at things like their possession stats in those games. I think at Ipswich they had something like 23% possession in the game. So I think it's likely that we'll see them set up that way again today, potentially with them just sitting in a bit deeper and looking to play on the counter-attack as much as they possibly can. Which I think, to be fair, at times has troubled Argyle this season. I think if you look at maybe the first half of the Exeter game last week, that they caught us out a couple of times by looking to break and use pace to get in behind us. So I'm sure that's something that Lincoln will have looked at, and probably the way they'll set up today and look to play against us.
No Jordan Garrick in their side here. They picked up an injury that's meant that he's gone back to Swansea. So a shame that we don't see him, but maybe a good thing, because there's always the former player curse that everybody always talks about. Looking at the game as a whole then, and you mentioned the Exeter game and the way that they caught us out on the counter-attack. We actually saw it with Shrewsbury as well, didn't we, in the home game, which was maybe more of a frustrating one rather than the open counter-attacking one that we saw against Exeter. The fact that Argyle have had to play these sorts of games against sides that now are obviously paying them a little bit more respect and sitting in a little bit more, does it make it easier, the fact that you've played a couple and won them, or is it always a pretty stoic, difficult thing to come up against?
I don't think it matters how many of those games you've played in the past. It's still, you've got to have the players there who can go and do a job and break those kinds of teams down. And sometimes that's more difficult to do when a team will potentially put 10 or 11 players behind the ball and say, right, what have you got for us? And you then rely on those more probably technically gifted players to pop up, and whether that's a through ball or whether that's a little bit of skill that kind of opens something up. But they're always difficult games to play in, and regardless of how many you've won in the past, I don't think that makes that any easier whatsoever.
And looking at November as a whole as well, I mean, that people always talk about the winter sort of period of a season being where maybe you start to see the real sort of nuts and bolts of the season. And this time last year, we actually lost 3 of the 4 games we played in November. We ended our long unbeaten run away to Charlton, and then it became a little bit difficult. We picked up injuries. I'm not saying that history is going to repeat itself this time around, but it will be a little tell, won't it? I had a message from Ian Stonebridge this morning saying he thinks today is one of the most crucial games of the season. And I think there are a few supporters thinking that as well.
Yeah, I think when you go on these really long unbeaten runs, and what are we on now, 13 games or something unbeaten in the league, and you're there as a target, aren't you, for everybody then? Can we go and beat the team who are on this massive unbeaten run, who are sitting top of the table, and that's what Lincoln will want to do today. But after Saturday's result, I think this group of players will be out there today to show that they've got a point to prove, and that was a one-off performance, and they will want to get back to the standards that they've set previously, which have been unbelievable so far this season. So yes, it's an important game today, and it's a difficult game, but I'm hoping that we see a reaction from the weekend and we get a positive performance and a positive result.
Just before we hear from Stephen Schumacher talking about his second Manager of the Month trophy on the bounce, on that point about sort of bouncing back and responding from last weekend's defeat, football managers and players always come out with a sort of bullish chat after a loss and say, that is a blip. But it looks like a blip, and I put that to the manager in the week, and I said, it's easy for people to suddenly go, right, that's it, we're going to go on this losing run, this has been coming, all of that sort of stuff. It hasn't been coming, has it? That's the whole point. We've been playing kind of so well, and it just looked like a complete outlier.
Yeah, and we spoke about it beforehand, and how nobody performed that day. And sometimes, I guess, if they're going to have an off game, let's all have an off game at the same time, and let's put that to bed then. And you can't necessarily say this is the end of what's been a brilliant run just off the back of one performance. If that rolls into 2 or 3 games, then that's different. But I don't expect this squad to let that affect them too much. And when you look at league results, league performances, they've been up there and top quality. And that's been different styles of play, that's been different formations, that's been different players. So we've come up with answers to most things that have been thrown at us so far. So yes, like I said, disappointing that we lost last week, disappointing to be out of the FA Cup, but let's focus on what good we've had in the league and try to keep building on that starting today.
11 wins from the last 13 games as well. It's not a bad little run of form that you're going in on. And that is why Stephen Schumacher has picked up his second consecutive Manager of the Month trophy, something that hasn't been done since 2018. And he's chuffed about it.
Quite like these trophies. There's a couple of them now on the window ledge in the office. So yeah, it's good. Always good to get some recognition. Shows how well the players have done to win it as well. Back to back is it's a really good achievement, and yeah, something I'm really proud of. Teams can have a good month and put a patch of results together, but to do it consistently over 15 games or whatever in September and October just shows how well the players are playing and how hard we've had to work to get the results. First and foremost, none of it's been easy. It's been a tough couple of months, but yeah, the results have been fantastic, and we just need that to continue.
You mentioned the amount of games. There were so many in October. It was a packed month. Are there any highlights in there for you?
Yeah, 1 or 2, yeah. I think Sheffield Wednesday was right at the start of the month. One that was rearranged, so that was brilliant, scoring last minute winner. Sam Cosgrove's header, that was unbelievable. And then obviously what topped it off was the Derby game, beating them at home in front of a packed home park. The way we did it on Sky, it was raining, teeming, lashing down, but yeah, 2 special moments that stand out in particular. Yeah,
you're going to have to get a bigger mantelpiece, aren't you? Because hopefully there'll be a few more this season too.
I'm not allowed to take any of this type of stuff home. My missus doesn't allow me to, so all the footy stuff's got to stay in work. So it'll stay on my window ledge in the office, and hopefully the collection just keeps getting bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, tremendous achievement for Stephen Schumacher, and I can vouch for that. His office is looking cluttered, so maybe we need to get another ledge for it. Fingers crossed we do, because it means something is going right. Okay, watching Argyle TV, we are approaching 2:30, which means we're getting closer and closer to kickoff. Just a moment, we'll be hearing from Morgan Whitaker on what he feels like heading back to the LNER Stadium. And we'll also be touching back on what happened on Wednesday night when the FA Youth Cup came to Home Park, so don't go anywhere.
Bad ball in, good goal, progress into the second division.
Right, well, in the summer, Argyle and Lincoln traded Swansea loanees. Jordan Garrick, who was here last season, went to Swansea. Morgan Whitaker, who was there last season, came to us. Sorry, Garrick went to Lincoln, didn't he? Not Swansea. Morgan's transition into life at Argyle has been pretty seamless. 7 goals, 5 assists in the league so far. But is he looking forward to going back to his old stomping
It'll be a good game, but we've got to go there and get the 3 points. That's the main job. Obviously, after Grimsby, we need to bounce back and carry on the form in the league.
Yeah, on bouncing back, I mean, how confident are you that will be the case this weekend?
Yeah, really confident. I think it was one game and everyone knows how bad it was, but can't let that affect us going forward. We know what we can do in the league and we've got to keep that going.
In some weird way, and I know it's never nice losing and being out of the cup, but having been on such a good run, it was almost inevitable at one stage it would end. It being done now, maybe in a competition that isn't the league, I don't know, does it make it feel any better, potentially?
Well, obviously,
or a blessing?
It was a bad day, but I think the main thing for us is not letting us affect us going forward. It's happened now. We just need to focus on the league and obviously promotion and just carrying on our good form.
I mentioned that you're going back to Lincoln. You were on loan there last season. What were your memories of your spell up there?
Well, it was my first loan, so it's obviously given me a big part of my career, and I enjoyed it. I got 20 games under my belt, and I was starting back-to-back games, so it was a big step in my career.
Is it nice playing old clubs? Because you've done it quite a few times, haven't you?
Yeah, obviously Derby being the main one, but it's obviously always that added little bit of pressure, and you just want to do well and show everyone what you can do.
The manager hasn't asked you, has he, Morgan? How do they play?
Obviously, yeah, you have a few questions about how they play, but it's more about us and getting the 3 points.
Yeah. On the way in which the side is playing, obviously last week aside, it's been an incredible run of form, and there seems to be goals coming from everywhere. Last time we spoke to you was about that sort of thing. Are you I don't know, what is it like playing in a side that you know you're going to get chances?
Yeah, it's what every attacker wants, is a team that you can get chances, and like I said, it's not just me that's scoring. The goals are shared between the attacking line, and I think every attacker knows their role and wants to help each other.
Yeah, and it's not just scoring goals for you, it's making them as well. You got a couple of assists the game against Exeter City. How are you finding that relationship with Ryan Hardy in particular? Because we've seen it a few times this season.
I just think we just know where everyone is. I know where Ryan wants to be in between the goals, and he knows where he wants to be. So it's just putting in an area and hopefully being there.
Is it as instinctive as that you just know it's Ryan Hardy, stick it in front of him, or what are you thinking when you're in that position?
I just see a green shirt and just hope it goes there. But no, I think you just know where your players want to be, and obviously doing it in training, the extras and shooting, and just having that relationship. And you can see on the pitch everyone's scoring and everyone's assisting.
It's a little spell for us at the minute where we're away from home. We were away last week in the Cup, we're away against Grimsby, then we're away against Burton. We haven't got a game at Home Park in the league until December. Does that make a difference to you guys?
I think being down here, you know every away game is far, so you're already mentally prepared for it, and I think it would just show our character if we can get through these away games. This tough period of being, obviously going back up to Lincoln, it's another really long away trip, but and then again, not being at home, you don't have the pressure of the home record, and you can just focus on getting the 3 points away from home.
There's Morgan Whitaker. It's been an incredible start to life at Argyle. We were talking about potentially Jordan Garrick having that old club curse. Thankfully, he's not playing. It'd be great if Morgan Whitaker could do something similar. How good do you think he's been, Katie, since he's come in?
I think when you look at him from the very start of the season, he probably wasn't someone who you would have looked at and said, do you know what, we've got a real good signing here. I think the first couple of games he played, he probably wasn't at his best. He looked short on confidence. He would lose the ball regularly, scrap those first few games, and then what we've seen since has been a completely different player and someone who on numerous occasions has been a match winner for us, has been the difference in lots of games so far this season. And I think he's definitely shown the qualities that he's got, and he can give you that something a bit different by scoring goals outside of the box. He creates things. He's he likes to play on the front foot, and alongside that he's got a few assists under his belt as well. So in terms of kind of looking at Argyle as an attacking prospect, he's probably the one at the moment that you would say he's the first person that you stick in your team.
Yeah. What is it? 7 + 5, 12 goal involvements in 17 games. And as you say, like the first few, he was a sub. He didn't really make an impact. And it's not just the amount, but it's the goals he is scoring. Got the winner against Ipswich Town at home park. Got the winner against Shrewsbury. Got us back into the game against Exeter with the equaliser. Quality timing and quality goals.
Yeah, and you can see from a technical point of view, he's probably up there with one of the better players in the squad. And you look at his finish for the equaliser against Exeter, the first touch to open himself up to then be able to get the shot away is not easy to do. And obviously these are in pressurised situations where you've got the away fans screaming at you, and he's shown that quality time and time again. And I don't know if anybody would have said at the beginning of the season he'd maybe get you 12 goal involvements, but he's certainly proven his worth so far. And again, like you said, hopefully he goes back to his old club today and with a point to prove, and he sticks a couple away. That would be lovely.
I did actually say he quite likes going back to his old club, because he scored obviously away at Derby this season, which is where he started, and he did the same for Swansea in a cup game at Derby. It's why they don't like him, because he gave a bit of one of those celebrations. So hopefully he can do something similar today. Just a final one on Morgan Whitaker. I suppose he takes on even more importance maybe because Finn Azaz is out, Danny May has been out, and that kind of inverted forward or 10 position has been, it's been the way that Argyle have wanted to play this season, hasn't it? Using those players. He's the only one left.
Yeah, and like you say, I think, you would, last season you would have said that Danny May is probably the most important player in the side in terms of creating things. He's been injured for several weeks now, and then Finn Azaz comes in and he starts to prove a point and shows what he's capable of doing, and he scores a few goals and creates things. Then he gets injured, and you're looking at these players to then come in and take over that mantle, if you like. And like I say, sometimes it's a tricky position to play. You've got to find those pockets of space. You've got to get yourself on the ball. You've got to be brave enough to want to pick up the ball in tight areas. And that's something that he can certainly do. And he's just got that little bit of class about him to be able to stay composed on the ball and pick out the right pass at the right time. And like we've spoken about, get shots away from around the edge of the box. And I'm sure Lincoln today will be looking to stop him from doing that as much as they possibly can, because he's certainly a threat from those positions.
Let's just turn our attention slightly, shall we, and deviate from the first team down to the academy and the under-18s, who were in action on Wednesday night in the first round of the FA Youth Cup. Darren Way's side swept past a Cheltenham team thanks to a brace from Will Jenkins-Davies and a goal from Joe Hatch in the second half. Here are the highlights from Wednesday night. A confident 3-0 win has set up a tie away against Gillingham in the second round. Date of that one hasn't yet been decided, but if you keep across all of our social media channels, you'll get informed of that one. And incidentally, Argyle Under-18s came away with a 1-1 draw in the EFL Youth Alliance Southwest Division against Bristol Rovers earlier on today. Joe Hatch scoring and putting Argyle in front, but Bristol Rovers coming back to get that point. Right, we are getting closer to kick-off here on Argyle TV. Argyle's trip to Lincoln City is about 25 minutes or so away. We're heading to the LNER Stadium in a moment to talk to Rob McNichol, who I can see has joined us. And it's very sunny up there, which I'm pleased to say. We'll also be reminding ourselves of the two team newses and also hearing from Mark Kennedy, the Lincoln manager. So stay exactly where you are. Right, let's hear from the Lincoln camp now. And their manager, Mark Kennedy, took over from Michael Appleton in the summer and has made a fairly decent start to life as manager up in Lincolnshire. And he sees today as one of the biggest challenges of the season so far.
If you look at who's top of the league, it's Plymouth. If you look at the form team in the league, it's Plymouth. If you look at their recent 8-9 games, there's a lot of W's in there. So Steve's done an amazing job. They've actually kicked on from last year. They had an amazing season last year, so I think he deserves all the plaudits he gets, and he is getting at the minute, deservedly so. I watched the game against Exeter, and several other games that was on telly, so that's an easy one. But individually, very, very good, very well organised. Score a lot of goals, big threat going forward. But I don't say this lightly, but we'll heavily focus on ourselves. And we're also having a good season, so long may that continue, please.
And they've had great continuity, not just with the assistant stepping up to the manager, but in terms of playing side as well. Do you think that always helps when you go into a new season, if you come off the back of a half-decent season, to have a settled side?
I can't answer. It appears that way, so I think generally speaking, yes, sometimes it won't always be like that. I can think of other clubs that have changed, managers moved on, changed within, and it's not worked out and it's not carried on. So I don't know Stephen, I've met him a couple of times, but really pleased for him that when you do go in, you get that opportunity. Sometimes it doesn't always work out, but he got off to a brilliant start, and I've no doubt he'll go on to really, really big things. So pleased for him personally that he's had that continuity and success, and it started. And I do absolutely. I know it's early in the season, but I do think Sheffield Wednesday, Ipswich. I'm just saying these because I've said about a couple of clubs. I'm not saying about everybody we play, but I think whoever finishes above those teams in Plymouth, I think Plymouth will be right there till the very end of the season.
And is it at this stage of the season you start taking note of the table and the teams and where they are? Do you think this is where we start to see a settled league table?
More so, yes. I'm not one. I got asked this question, I think after about 7 or 8 games, and I think 15 games is a good barometer. I know ourselves and a couple of others have a game in hand here and there and a couple, but I think after 15 games, me personally as a new to the club and the players, I feel like I've got an excellent understanding of who we are, what we look like, what's best for us in terms of individuals to shape, what complements them the most, what type of a team we are. I don't mind admit other managers might say that's taken far too long, or actually I need a lot more time. For me, around this period now, is I would say recently is when I've really had right, this is us, and so I think for me that's a fair reflection on the league.
Mark Kennedy there, speaking ahead of this one, very considered talk about what he thinks ahead of today's game, and we're getting closer and closer to it. Let's remind ourselves of the two lineups for this afternoon. Then we'll start with Argyle. 5 changes made by Stephen Schumacher. 2 of them, of course, enforced from that defeat against Grimsby last weekend. Dan Scarr and Connor Grant out for the foreseeable. Wilson and Mumba come in for them. The other changes see Houghton recalled back to the starting lineup, along with Niall Ennis and Morgan Whitaker back at his old club. And Katie, I just wanted to ask you a quick question on Jordan Houghton. Missed last weekend's game because of family issues. So back in today, how key do you think he is actually? Because we didn't. He was one of the star players at the start of last season. Ran out of gas a little bit, I think, towards the end, like a lot of the players. This season didn't start the season in the squad because of the form of Randall and Butcher, but has made impacts from the bench. And I don't know, he just brings that sort of, calmness to the midfield. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think he's the type of player. He's got that little bit more experience about him, hasn't he? And alongside probably Randall in there, who is another player who brings you a bit of composure on the ball. Houghton's one of those who'll look to get on it. He looks to keep things simple and try to get Argyle playing. And I think the games where we've struggled this season potentially have been those games where we haven't been able to get those two on the ball as much. And I think that just shows how important they both are to the lineup. And I think in terms of Houghton particularly, he probably gives you a little bit more of a dogness in there, maybe, that he can just be in there and yes, he's good on the ball, but also he can do that sort of defensive side of things a little bit better and break play up. So another opportunity for him again today to show what he can do from the start of the game. And he'll be looking to kind of cement his place in there alongside Randall, who rightly so has kind of, been the mainstay in there this season so far.
Let's have a look at the Lincoln side then as well. They've made 3 changes from the side that dumped out Bristol City in the Carabao Cup in the week. Most notably, Jack Diamond, their top scorer, recalled up top. The other 2 changes are in defence, with Robson and Walsh coming in for Rowan and Ayoma, and no spot either for Jordan Garrick, who's picked up an injury, unfortunately, and has been sent back to Swansea. So no reunion for Jordan Garrick with his former Argyle teammates. Let's try and head across to Lincolnshire now, to the LNER Stadium. I can see Rob McNichol is in position. It's looking very sunny up there, Rob. Got a nice shot. In behind the boulder. Very artistic done. Brilliant. How are things up there?
There's a big difference between artistic and about the only place I can go where you can actually see anything. I'll try and whiz around a bit. So the over that shoulder, can you see the cathedral? Can you just get the Lincoln Cathedral in there? The Argyle fans will be in that end. That's the Argyle fans in the away end. But very crucially, the sun is over there, and you can barely even see it because of the way it's glinting. So I think, Charlie, it could be a big toss to win today.
Yeah, sun in keeper's eyes, exactly, and it will only be for one half. You were up in Grimsby last week. A lot's been made of that performance and result, obviously being dumped out. But the Argyle fans have travelled in numbers again. Speaking to people in the week in the camp, it was a blip, wasn't it? Surely.
I mean, you're allowed them, aren't you? You're absolutely allowed them. It just seems weird that 2 of our blips this season have been 5-1, but they've both been, things that you can explain, I think. And yeah, you can only tell whether it was a blip after today and after the next couple of games, but it's not really been in the way we've been this season to have games like that. It does feel like a bit of an aberration, and you've already mentioned the fans. You can probably hear them in the background there singing Barley Mumba's tune, but I was down by the pitch side earlier on and I could hear 2 Grimsby officials talking, people that work at the ground, Grimsby Lincoln officials talking, people at the ground, and I heard them say, there's no way they're going to fill that end. All the way from Plymouth, they won't fill that end. And I was thinking, we will, mate. There's about 1,200 coming. And it's so I think, I'm not saying that just because there were only a few hundred last week at Grimsby, that was a reason why we lost 5-1. But I do think, a league game and with this travelling, support today and the form we've been on, I'm sure you've already talked about Lincoln's home form, which is a slightly interesting thing that we've got to break through today. But I do feel confident. I hope that's not misplaced.
Well, absolutely, hopefully. Rob, thanks very much. We'll leave you to it in the sunshine. Rob McNichol there at the LNER Stadium. You can find all of his work on our Twitter page this afternoon, taking you through everything. If you can't listen, watch, or be there, of course, the next best thing is to follow what Rob does. And Katie, that sun looked pretty pretty dangerous, didn't it, at one end? Whoever does have to face that Sun in the first half is in for a bit of a shock.
Yeah, like Rob said, I think important toss to win there today and try and play kind of against that as much as they possibly can, because it's a nightmare, isn't it, when the Sun's that low and in the keeper's eyes. So, and I think the worst thing is if that's in Michael Cooper's eyes today and we defend as poorly as we did from corners last week, then it could be an issue. But hopefully Joe Edwards goes out there, wins toss and picks the right way to shoot.
First toss, crucial then, obviously. Katie, thank you very much. We'll hear more from Katie during commentary, which is coming up very, very shortly on Argyle TV. We've just got enough time to whiz around the rest of the division and see what else is happening. It's a full fixture list in League One this afternoon. Ipswich Town, of course, who just below Argyle in the table. They've got a home game against Cheltenham Town. You expect them to probably do quite well in that game. So we'll keep you up to date with that. Accrington Stanley host Sheffield Wednesday, who of course are in the final playoff spot before the automatic promotion places. But full fixture list there for you, and we'll do our best to keep you up to date with all of those throughout the afternoon. Right, okay, now the important bit. If you are overseas and watching us today, then you can watch this game for just £10. All of the details on how to get your stream is on our website, pafc.co.uk. Just click on the Argyle TV tab. You can find all of your streaming options in there. For UK-based supporters, it'll be audio commentary. Myself and Katie will bring you all the action. Just £2.50. Again, you can find that on our website. Will the Greens get back to winning ways and continue their fine league form? We hope so. Argyle haven't won at Lincoln since 2003. A certain Ian Stonebridge got the goal that day to give us the win. We're hoping for a similar sort of heroic performance from someone today. And commentary of Argyle's trip to Lincoln is coming up next.